All right, well, welcome back. Let's dive right in. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, so what are you doing right now, Ross?" So just maybe a little personal update. As I mentioned earlier, I sold my last business about 12 years ago, so I've been a little semi-retired since then. I play a lot of golf. I have four children, and all of them now are married and live nearby, so we get to see them frequently. And actually, I have three grandkids now. We just had one last month. So we spent last night, my wife and I, doing a little babysitting with the little 1 month old baby. So my son and his wife could take a little break and go out boating. But I traveled around once in a while and speak with usually to university students, as a lot of medical and dental schools where the students are leaving with a tremendous amount of debt and how they can manage that to get a great start in their career. On a personal level, those who know me know this. Tom knows this well, but I'm completely deaf. Over my career, I lost my hearing. For the last 11 years, I use a cochlear implant. Maybe you can see that. It's a bionic ear. It allows me at least a little bit of hearing and to be able to function. But I don't say that to make you feel sorry for me. I'm a very lucky guy. I live a very blessed life. I have a wonderful family, and I get to do the things that I enjoy to do. But those are the things I'm involved in. But this is something I'm really passionate about. So let's dive in. And again, more detail in the book, but let me give you the overview of the important parts of each of these steps. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is recognize that you've got a problem. Because if you don't, I've found that you're not ready. There's no point in getting started if you're just going to go back off into the weeds as soon as you make a change. You need to have a quick success so you feel that success. Debt can be a speed bump in your life or a barricade. And the difference is it's really up to you and how you're going to deal with that. I think debt is part of our lives, but using it in an effective way. And like I say, I hate debt. So I can't stand payments. So whenever I had resources, I got to that point where I'd get rid of all the debt in my life, and I've been able to maintain that throughout the majority of my career. And you should too. Don't believe when people tell you, just leverage yourself up and use other people's money, those kind of things. Yes, there's some benefits if you do those right, but there's lots of trap doors as well. And so be very careful as you use those type of things to try to get ahead. I think a debt-free, wealthy life is a life free of stress, money stress that affects us in so many different ways. But that's the key thing. When you think about when you've had money problems, we've all had them. So I can just assume we've all experienced this, but they are all consuming and they affect us in many different ways. Number one cause of divorce is money problems. And that's even for wealthy people or poor people. It's because they fight over how they're going to spend those monies. And often those times create obstacles that cause them to go separate ways. Abuse, business failures, bankruptcy, lost family relationships. More recently, things like addiction and even suicide often are the result of money problems. They all started with the stress and anxiety we feel when we don't have enough money to meet our basic needs. Think about where you learned about money. And, this is where I think society in general does a very poor job of educating us about something as simple that all of us has to deal with, and that is money and finance. How do we use that? How many of you had parents that were good examples and showed you maybe how to keep track of your money, introduced you to investing or banking, those types of things, taught you be responsible with credit cards and those types of things. How many of you took a class and learned from a teacher or attended a webinar or seminar or a CD even? We used to use those a lot for self-directed learning where you did it on your own. Many of us, myself included, had mentors. I like to think of me maybe in that capacity with you at this point to help you, because I've been there. None of the thing I'm sharing with you today are things that I just read out of a book. They're all things I experienced. I've had the spectrum from being very poor to having a comfortable life. I've made all the mistakes, and you're going to learn basically how to avoid a few of those mistakes today if you'll pay attention to what I'm sharing. People sometimes pay for advice. That's a trusted advisor. I don't think you have to. I think you can do this all yourself. But that is the way some people get the help they need. Most of all, we learn from experience. And when it comes to money, it's usually mistakes that are the learning vehicle for us. I like to say we all have our degree from the School of Hard Knocks, where the school colors are black and blue. And the education is the most expensive education that you can get. But we all go through that. The thing is, do we pay attention? Do we learn from those mistakes that we made so we don't keep repeating those same mistakes in our lives? I love this saying, and I used it in my seminars, my books. It's a wise man who learns from his mistakes, but the wiser man learns from the mistakes of others. That's the opportunity you have today, is to learn from the mistakes that I've made, so you don't have to go through some of those same challenges in your own financial life. So, are you ready for a miracle? Just like my hearing is my miracle, a money miracle can be something that you have, and I believe you can all reach that within the next 60 days if you follow this plan. So, are you willing to do what it takes? That's the most important thing, because it takes a great commitment. As I said earlier, if you're not committed, you'll be wasting your time and spinning your wheels. If then you're ready for step number two. Step number two is stop adding new debt. When I was young, I was involved in scouting programs where we go out camping and things as young men and learn skills. And I remember I used to look forward to every summer going to the scout camp because they let us shoot guns. And it was a fun thing to do. We always got the campsite near the gun range so we could go shoot the guns. I didn't grow up around that, so it was kind of a special treat for me. And when I got to there, and I'm probably 11 or 12 years old, and I learned that I was a pretty good shot. I could shoot the little 22 rifle and hit the target. We had to get 5 shots in the space of a quarter, about that big. And I could do that. I was pretty good at it. The second part of the merit badge, they called it, the assignment, the task, was to shoot a shotgun. And the first thing I noticed when we went and did the shotgun was, I was a little boy. It kind of kicked a little bit and hurt my shoulder. But we had somebody out there throwing these clay pigeons, and then he had to shoot the shotgun and try to hit the clay pigeon. I went into that very confident because I was a good shot. I'd done the rifles really good. And so we started doing the shotguns, and I can say that when it was my turn, every single one of those clay pigeons got broke. Unfortunately, none of them got broke because the pellets from the shotgun hit them. They all broke because they hit the ground. And it was very discouraging. I thought I was a good shot. What was the difference? The difference was the target was moving. And it's just the same in your life. If you're trying to overcome a financial challenge, you can't hit a moving target. So the best way to do this is to stop adding new debt. I don't think there's any other way to do this. You got to go cold turkey and just stop spending money that you don't have. I have my daughter recently got married about 2 or 3 months ago, and I sat down with her and her husband or fiance at the time, and we had a little talk. And I counsel a lot of engaged couples in my time, my service here in the community. And one of the things I always tell them, if they really want to get ahead, you've heard the saying, live within your means. You probably heard that. People talk about it all the time. And mentors will share that. Well, I think it needs to be a little bit more than that. And I think to really get ahead now, because of the challenges we face all over the world, the pandemic created some new challenges for all of us. You need to live beneath your means, not just within them, but beneath them, so that you can get comfortable and get ahead in a very challenging environment. So what can you do to cut back? It doesn't mean you can't afford it. It's just that you're not going to spend it. You're going to use those resources to create a comfortable life, so that when you stop working, you send your money to work. You have enough money to generate, as Tom talked about, those money trees, those income trees. You have enough of those to sustain the lifestyle that you want to live. That retirement doesn't mean cutting back. It means sustaining or even increasing your lifestyle at that point. So stop, because it's impossible to hit a moving target. I use a story. When I wrote this book, I was asked by a magazine to do a feature story for an entire year and work with several of their readers to help them with their personal financial challenges. I want to introduce you to one of the couples. This was Jen and Ben, and they were a young couple. They had one daughter, and this is a picture, literally the night I met them, they took this and sent it to me. And look at all those credit cards. And here, this young couple, they had just used these credit cards to build a lifestyle that was far beyond their means. And they had finally reached a point where they just couldn't go anymore. They couldn't afford another payment. So they came to the class, and I told them, you gotta stop adding new debt. And in my classes, I used to get a pair of scissors, and I'd set it on the table. And I did that with them this night. And I said, who has the courage to come and get these scissors and take all the credit cards out of your purse and wallet and cut those up so that they can stop causing you problems? Well, Ben and Jen came up, and she was the first with tears in her eyes, and she cut up those credit cards. And I just admired that. What I didn't realize was this is the picture they took when they got home. And those were the extra credit cards that they had that had balances on them, but they didn't have them with them, so they weren't able to destroy them. Well, fortunately, they learned their lesson. This was them a few minutes later after running all those credit cards through the shredder. And I'm happy to report that Ben and Jen were a great success. When they met me that night, they were $114,000 in debt. They didn't own a home. They just rented. They had cars with financed cars. They had big screen TVs on their credit cards and all these things that we do. They had done it all and had reached their limits. But within 1 year following the 6-day Money Miracle Plan, these 7 steps I'm sharing with you, they got down to $67,000. Their goal, I asked them, what is it? What, being debt-free, how would your life be different? And they said, well, our goal is we want to have a home. And it was interesting that I ran into them 2 years later after we'd finished the program. They continued to follow the plan, and they sent me a note, and they said, hey, Ross, can we get another copy of your book? And I said, well, sure. I said, where are you guys at these days? And they said, we live in Linden, it was a little community near us. I said, well, that's funny. I grew up in, my first house was in Linden. And so they gave me their address, and I went to their house, and it was literally around the corner from where I bought my very first house. So a little connection there, and they were in their first house. So within 3 years, they'd retired all that debt, accomplished their goal, and were able to afford a new home for them and their family. This same miracle could happen to you if you follow these steps. The key to success is to control your spending. I told you about the neurosurgeon. He made $2 million. He had a spending problem. So even though he made great money, he wasn't able to get ahead. In the state of Texas in the United States, it's a cowboy state. And they have a saying there that kind of, I think, illustrates this. They say it's all hat, no cattle. And so great big cowboy hat, but they don't have any cattle to manage. And that's the way most of us are in our lives. So the way you get ahead is limiting your spending to necessities: food, clothing, shelter, transportation, and healthcare. That's it. That's it. And if you can't do that, you're probably never going to get ahead. Pay with cash or a debit card so you don't exceed your ability to spend, and avoid places that you'll be tempted. I think it's important to build a strong support group. Let them know you're trying to do better. If you're married, your spouse or significant other needs to be on board. It's too hard. It creates too much conflict if you're not together and united in this plan. Parents, friends, coworkers, surround yourself with people who have a positive influence in you. Maybe they want to do it with you. I think being part of a team, just like the foundation unites you, you can be a team and you get the support you need to get through the rough times, because there will be rough times. But again, will they be speed bumps or barricades? It's up to you. So the next step is to conduct a financial inventory. Identify every source of income in your personal economy. Identify all your monthly expenses, even irregular expenses. Some things we don't pay every month. We pay some things maybe once a year, or we pay things every 3 or 6 months. but you've got to kind of understand what has to go out every month and what's coming in before you can kind of put together a plan of how to optimize that to get ahead and stay ahead once you've retired all your debts. What savings and investments do you have? Well, how much are you contributing to those things? How much are they worth? Are they growing or are they going down in value? Those are things you need to understand. Any assets, if you own jewelry, if you own things, just things and stuff that we acquire in our life that has value that maybe we don't use. Track everything you spend for a single month. Carry a little notepad, and each time you buy even a soda or you go out to lunch with your coworkers or friends or family, write down. Yes, I promise you will find a leak in your financial hose. And it may be something simple that you never thought added up to that kind of money, but that's the kind of thing we need to do to get aware of the issues and focus on the things that will help us do better. So do that financial inventory. That's step number 3. What it's going to do is it's going to help you answer a super important question. It's this one you see on your screen. Can you afford the lifestyle you live? And unfortunately, for many of us, the answer to that is no. But we keep forcing it, and it just creates a bigger challenge for us. Now's the time to recognize it, do something about it. That's what I want to give you today, and you have all the resources you can to follow through. I love this saying, a man who never has money enough to pay his debts has too much of something else. And I believe that's really true. The next thing we need to do is get a jump start on our savings. I love this cartoon. It says, how's the safety net working? And you see a guy there slipping through the big a hole in his safety net. And that's the way most of us live our lives. So to get ahead, you need to have a little bit of a cushion in your life, because unexpected things always happen. Doesn't matter how well we plan or prepare, there will be surprises along the way. And to deal with those surprises, you need an emergency fund. I tell my students that in the United States, that could be $500, because that's enough to cover, tires for my car, or a repair to an appliance, or maybe a visit to the emergency room for one of my kids that breaks his arm when he falls off a swing or a bike. Those are the kind of emergencies that happen that you need to be prepared for, so that when they happen, because they will happen for you, that you don't whip out a credit card or incur debt to solve that problem. So create an emergency fund. How much should it be? Excuse me, I'll show you that in a sec, but generate some quick cash to get off to a start. I think that's important. I told you that's a catalyst for more success. So emergencies are part of life. I explained those. Those are the kind of things that we all see oftentimes in our lives. So how much do we need? And I said 1 month's take-home pay is the ideal amount. But if it seems that would be impossible, I said take me forever to get ahead that much, then we want to work towards a goal of 6 months of income. But start with $500, because that's enough to cover, or depending on the country you live in, maybe even less, that you have a little bit of a cushion so that you don't go into debt when something bad happens. Where's that money going to come from? That's all. It sounds great. I'd love to do that. I'd love to have 6 months of my salary in the bank. It's just not possible, Russ. Well, you got to start somewhere. So where are you going to start? Let me tell you the best place, and you'll be shocked how much money you could generate really quickly. And I call this pocket change. This is a picture of me, and you can see one was a little younger, one's a little older, but this is something I've done. One of my kids gave me this little Pepsi bottle for a Christmas present one year, and a little kid gives you that, and it's like, oh, thanks, that's just what I needed. But I was thinking, what do? I set it in my closet, because you got to kind of keep those things, right? And it sat there for years, and then I realized it had a little slot in the top and the cap, and it was a bank. And so I had it in my closet. So when I would take them off my clothes at night, I'd empty my pockets and I put the change in there. And slowly but surely, it filled up. Well, how much do you think that was? Just emptying the change out of my pocket every night. When I first emptied that, it was over $900. Wow. I was shocked. In fact, I told the kids, we went out and counted it all before we took it to the bank. And I said, whatever we get, we'll use for something fun on a family trip. And that's what we did. So they got excited about this and they started doing it themselves. Well, I filled up that jar now 7 or 8 times. I usually do a little contest on my social media pages to have you guess how much is in there, and then I give away a prize to whoever gets closest. But this was the most I ever had was about $1,100 in the Pepsi bottle. But I believe that even pocket change adds up. So don't tell me you can't do this. You can do this. It's just going to take some sacrifices, and you got to find the hidden money in your budget. One of the best ways, and this is a challenge I give to everybody, this should be part of your 90-day challenge, to get you some money in your pockets quickly, usually within a few days. The internet, social media, all these tools, eBay, other social sites in your community give you a means to instantly turn stuff, junk, into cash for you. And I call that a treasure hunt. And I want you, the minute we're done today, to go through everything you have, the closets, the cupboards, the garage, the storage shed, whatever it is, and find those things that have value to someone that you're not using, because we're going to turn those into money to be the catalyst to start your debt freedom journey and your 90-day challenge. It all goes together. Perfect timing. You're starting this next week. Now's the time to start planning and getting ready for that. I love to hear the stories. I've had people send me emails and say, Ross, I was broke. I had no idea where I was going to get it. And we sold the old hot tub sitting on our deck, and we got, $800. And that was what helped us pay off a credit card. Those are the kind of stories I love to hear. And there'll be many stories from you as well as you implement that step. Increase your cash flow. Once you understand how it all works, you've made the personal sacrifices to live beneath your means. They're all temporary, because you'll get to points where guys like me and Tom we could spend that money if we want to. It doesn't mean that we will, because we have a high threshold of what's worth spending the money for, because we know the sacrifices it took to get to that point. You're going to learn that same process so that you can decide. But if you go without eating out for 6 or 8 months so that you can get ahead on finance and save that money towards your debt, after you get debt free, maybe you treat yourself by going out once a week or going out once a month, whatever fits your lifestyle. Those are the kind of things you'll be able to do and enjoy. Lifestyle, I call that. But you can enjoy that and manage that. You can still have a great life, even if you cut back in some of those areas. Identify the biggest leak in your budget and start with that. Use the free cash flow that you generate from your treasure hunt, from eliminating some of the mistakes you're making, to pay off your debts and begin that process and start seeing some success so that you're motivated and excited to keep the process going. The biggest sources I find for most people are entertainment. What do they spend on, movies? And eating out is a huge one. And communications. I didn't have that. When I was a college student, we didn't have cell phones. Now I think about how much I spend on cell phone and internet service every month, and it's staggering. That could be a big hole in your budget. Believe it or not, there's Wi-Fi just about everywhere we go now. So why are we paying for that high-speed service on a phone and paying extra dollars each month when maybe we can do without that and free up that extra $30 to get ahead, or maybe increase the lifestyle a little bit? Insurance and learning how to manage that. There's tips in the books, more than I can cover in our time today. And also investments, ways you manage that. And when you do that, I meet people all the time that are still contributing to investment accounts that are earning now, or maybe losing money. And at the same time, they're paying interest 21% on a credit card balance. And to me, that doesn't make sense. The money they're contributing there to put at risk when they can get a guaranteed return by eliminating a 21 or 22 or 24% interest rate on a known debt. That's a better investment, a better immediate guaranteed predictable return than putting that money at risk in an investment. You'll get there and you'll be able to catch up quickly once you do. But this is the bigger problem that's holding you back from that point right now. That's where those resources need to go. Your spending habits, I believe, will have a bigger impact on your ability to build wealth in your life than your actual income. That's a pretty bold statement, but I've met enough people and had enough exposure to say that's true. Your goal should be to increase your income by 10%, your cash flow. That's after you pay all your bills, what's left. You should be able to increase that by 10% in the next 30 days. And that will be the catalyst to help you start this process and get to a better point in your life financially. Number 6 is automate the plan. I told you that I've met some people that are great examples of this. I like to use this analogy. Most of us have a phone now, and when we're going somewhere, we put the destination in the map, and we say, just go, tell me where to go and how to get there quickly. And it tells us the shortest possible path from where we are today to where we want to go. We need that same kind of thing for our finances so we can kind of track our progress. Well, inevitably, when we're in the car, at least it happens to me, maybe not you, but we make a wrong turn. Well, what does the phone do when you make a wrong turn when you're using directions? It recalibrates, doesn't it? And it tells you the new shortest path to get back on track to reach your goal. And that's what we need to do in our personal financial lives as well. So again, wherever I'm at, Salt Lake City, I want to go to Denver, I can put those coordinates into my GPS. And then even if I make a wrong turn, it's going to tell me exactly how to get right back on path. The more you can automate, the better. I told you a story. I got invited to speak at a conference where they awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award to a guy for the best investor of the year, the investor of the year this group put out. And they invited me to be the speaker at the luncheon where he got his trophy. And I ended up sitting at the same table with this man. He was in his 80s, and he was a farmer from the Midwest, and he managed billions of dollars. And he was really interested in what I do. And he says, oh, I could never do that, Russ. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I would love to be able to do what you do. You know, I can't even imagine having billions of dollars. And he goes, oh, Russ, what I do is so boring. He goes, I just know one thing I do, and I just follow it to the letter because I know I've learned if I get off track, then I end up losing money. He goes, it's so simple, it's mindless, anybody could do it. And I thought, no, anybody can't do that. But what lesson I learned from him was that the more mechanical you can be in the way you manage your money, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So follow the steps in the book, and that's the easy part. The hard part will be the discipline to stick with your plan and see those results ultimately at the end. So the seventh thing is to increase your ability to earn. There's only 2 ways once you got a good plan to make it go faster, and that's either spend less or make more. And you've got great resources here with the foundation to learn some of those steps. So let's take another quick little break, and then we'll wrap up with something. I'm going to spend a little time on telling you how to get money in your pocket in the next 30 days. So stay with us. Awesome.